I wanted to make a video about hypocrites. This is also a very important concept to understand. This applies to people who call themselves Muslims. This is the most important thing for them. Okay, understanding that just because you call yourself a Muslim, even if you pray, that does not mean you are not a hypocrite. Okay, as a matter of fact, this word hypocrite really relates only to the people who call themselves Muslims, as far as in the Quran. People can be hypocrites of any religion or anything like that, but in the Quran, this relates to people who refer to themselves as Muslims, as I will explain. The people who don't believe in God, they have different names. There are different names in the Quran for them. You know, kafirun, you know, kuffar, the disbelievers. So people who disbelieve, they're disbelievers. They're not referred to as hypocrites in the Quran. Whether they do hypocrisy in general sense, that's irrelevant. When God speaks about hypocrites in the Quran, God is speaking to people who call themselves Muslims. That's very important to understand, because so many Muslims are either non-practicing, which doesn't even make sense when you consider what the word in Arabic means. If you are a non-practicing Muslim, you are a hypocrite. Okay? For the very sense that the word Muslim means a person who submits to God. Submission implies obedience. So a person that obeys God willingly, that's a Muslim. A person that disobeys God willingly is, I think it's the Arabic word used for that person is fasik or fasikun or something like that in the Quran. Okay? And that person is also a hypocrite. But this is so misunderstood that's, you know, something needs to be said on it. And it's very important, because God says in the Quran to tell the hypocrites that they will have a painful punishment. That is in verse 4, chapter 4, verse 138. God also says in chapter 4, verse 145, surely the hypocrites are in the lowest stage of the fire, and you will not find anybody to help them. Prophet Muhammad or Prophet Jesus or Abraham or any of the prophets will not be able to help the hypocrites. God clearly says that. So it is very important, of extreme importance, to understand what a hypocrite is, what a hypocrite does, so we can avoid being hypocrites. In the easiest sense of the word, hypocrisy, hypocrites basically say what they don't do. So let's say they profess Islam, they profess to be Muslims, they profess to be obedient to God or submitting to God, while at the same time they're not. That is one of the qualities most detestable to God, because God says in the, I forget which chapter, but it's from the beginning, one of the smallest chapters toward the end of the Quran. God says, "O you who believe, why do you say that which you do not do?" Most hateful to God is that you should say that which you do not do. God hates that. So don't say you're a Muslim if you don't obey God. That's hypocrisy. That is doing something that is most hateful to God. If you claim to be a Muslim and you believe in the Quran, God says don't do something that you don't say something that you won't do. That doesn't, of course, only relate to this particular topic. That can mean keep your promises. You know, why are you making promises if you're not going to keep them? When you talk about, you know, when somebody gives you their word that they're going to, you know, pick you up at 5 p.m., you are actually waiting for them. That person may, you know, just think it's not a big deal. You know, I told him I was going to pick him up. It's no big deal. But it is a big deal. To a person that is waiting for that, it is a big deal. So keeping our word is a big deal. This includes keeping our word that we obey God. But one of the defining characteristics of hypocrites is they say what is not in their hearts. And one of the examples, one of the verses I can use for an example for this is chapter 3, verse 167. And it says, and that he may know the hypocrites. And when it was said to them, when it was said to the hypocrites, come, fight in God's way or defend yourselves. They said, if we knew fighting, we would certainly have followed. They were on that day much nearer to disbelief than to believe. And here's the kicker. They say with their mouths what is not in their hearts. And God best knows what they conceal. So they made an excuse. They didn't want to fight. Fighting is scary, I understand. Nobody really wants to fight. And fighting is a whole nother discussion. It is in the Quran, it is needed, and it's commanded on the believers. But that's not what I'm talking about here. But God clearly defines, the verse starts, and that he might know the hypocrites. And then the verse ends, they say with their mouths what is not in their hearts. So you can say, I am a Muslim. But if obedience to God is not in my heart, I'm not saying you're going to be perfect, you're going to make mistakes, but if that obedience, you know if you are trying. And you also know if you have just chosen to say, this particular law does not apply to me, I'm not going to bother following it. That is hypocrisy. That you are saying that you are Muslim, you are saying that you are claiming to be obedient to God, but that is not what is in your heart. It is important to understand that simply saying the Shahada, saying the Islamic proclamation of faith is not enough. So there is a verse in the Quran that addresses that, actually. In the Quran, chapter 63, verse 1, we are told, when the hypocrites come to you, they say, we bear witness that you are the messenger of God. And God knows most surely that you are his messenger, and God bears witness that the hypocrites are surely liars. So hypocrites come to the Prophet and they say what we refer to as the Shahada. They say, we believe in God and we believe that you're God's messenger. And yet they are still hypocrites. Just going through that motion does not make you a Muslim. Religion of Islam says that makes you a Muslim. The Quran says otherwise. That does not make you a Muslim. Sincerity in obedience to God makes you a Muslim. Saying something, it does not. It is inconsequential. People before you, hypocrites, came and said that to the messenger himself, and God says they are still hypocrites. They are still hypocrites. Does observing prayers make you a Muslim? No. You can still observe prayers and be a hypocrite. So God says in the Quran, again, defining the hypocrites, and this is in chapter 4, verse 142. God says, surely the hypocrites strive to deceive God, and he shall requite their deceit to them. And when they stand up to prayer, they stand up sluggishly. They do it only to be seen of people, and do not remember God except a little. Actually, the same concept is in the Bible. Prophet Jesus says to his followers, when you pray, don't be like the hypocrites. They love to stand in synagogues and on the street corners and pray so people see them. I tell you in truth, they have already received their reward in full. This is in Matthew 6, verse 5. You know why you pray. I'm not saying that just praying is not enough, but you know why you pray. You know why you pray. If you like for people to see you pray, so they're like, man, this guy prays. He prays every I forgot what the Arabic terms are called now. Every fard and fard or whatever, the ones that are commanded by God, and every sunnah prayer too. Wow, prays all the time. If this is your intention, you are a hypocrite. And for you, it's the lowest place in heaven. If you can sense this disease in your heart, for you, it's better for you to pray at home. Just go and then for Juma and Friday prayers and pray then. If you have this disease in your heart. I'm not saying it's bad to go to the mosque and pray. It's probably better. You make social connections with good people when you do that. But if you are only doing that so you can make social connections, so people think you're a good person, then don't do that. Then you're a hypocrite. What is another quality of hypocrites? So, another quality of hypocrites is they are defiantly disobedient. And this is what I was alluding to in the beginning when I said that people call themselves Muslims but are disobedient to God. And that is the only people that the word munafiq, hypocrite, applies to in the Quran. It does not apply to disbelievers, although they too may be hypocrites in the general sense of the word. God tells us, the hypocritical men and the hypocritical women are all alike. They command evil and forbid good, and are stingy. They have forsaken God, so God has forsaken them. Surely the hypocrites are defiantly disobedient. I think that is self-explanatory. So all of these hypocrites, they have the same quality. They have the same quality. They disobey God. They do not follow God's laws. When God said don't fornicate, they go fornicate. When God said don't cheat, they go cheat. When God said give charity, they really don't give charity sincerely. When God says don't lie, they lie. When God says respect your parents, they don't. When God says be honest in commerce, they are not. When God says take care of the orphan, the needy, they really don't put any effort towards that. It's not in their mind. When God says fast, they don't fast. When God forbids a food, they eat it. They may not do all of these things, but they have given themselves a right to pick and choose what they are going to follow. And this what makes it, this is what makes them hypocrites. They command evil, and even at times they forbid good. You have people, even now, in the self-professed Muslim world, that forbid people to be Muslims. Now, I personally do not believe that a hijab is commanded in the Quran. It is mentioned as a covering. I don't think that a woman necessarily has to cover her hair to be modest. What is commanded is modesty, and this is for men too. This is for both sexes. But some people in self-professed Muslim countries see this as a sign of oppression because somebody from the West defined that as a sign of oppression, and now they want to forbid women from doing that. I am against making them do that. They should be, if a man or a woman, if they see themselves as a Muslim, they should be humble. They should be humble in their appearance. That is the only thing that's asked from them. So, but it is just as wrong to forbid them to wear it as it is to make them wear it. Now, I am not talking about the full ninja suit, the niqab. I think that's just, I don't think that is safe in today's society. I don't think people should be allowed to do that. That is just going too far. And I'm not for that, for simple safety reasons. But in a society where they want to do that, as long as they're not forced, they should be allowed to do that. But what I'm saying is, some Muslim countries have banned women from wearing it. Some Muslim countries make them wear it, others have banned them, banned wearing it. Like, for example, I don't know if it's still happening in Turkey, but historically that happened in Turkey. It doesn't matter what kind of a person you are. And it's, now some Muslims, self-professed Muslims, justify this evil. You're forbidding people who want to look modest in their own way. You're forbidding them from doing that. You are forbidding good. These people are trying to be good. They're not doing any damage to anybody by wearing a hijab. They're not doing any damage to anybody. But some self-professed Muslims are doing this to them, trying to forbid it in the name of enlightenment, without completely failing to recognize that forcing somebody to do something they don't want to do, either way, it's like the same thing. One side is forcing them to wear it, the other side is forcing them not to wear it. People who, of their free will, want to do something. You know, it is women's rights, you know. You can't let a woman wear a scarf on her head if she wants to. You don't have to forbid it. But because these people, they want to appear enlightened, now they forbid this. So hypocrites, they forbid good and they command evil. This is just one example. I don't even know if it's a good example, but it just came to my head of how they forbid good. What is another quality of hypocrites? Another quality of hypocrites is that they refuse to learn what God has forbidden. And I think this is a thing that a lot of people do, thinking that this will excuse them with God. Just say, I didn't know. A lot of people, the reason why they don't want to read the Quran is because they assume, or they kind of know, that what they like doing, whether it's drugs, whether it's fornication, whether it's partying, whether it's whatever, they kind of think that that is in the Quran. They will find out that they can't do that, so they were like, I don't want to read it yet, I'm not ready. But God says in the Quran, gives us an example of this. In chapter 9, verse 97, God says, the desert Arabs are very hard in unbelief and hypocrisy, and more disposed not to know the limits of what God has revealed in His messenger. And God is knowing, wise. So, ignorance, willful ignorance, especially in today's society where everything is at the tips of your fingers, is a sign of hypocrisy. You are sick with hypocrisy. These are the issues that people have to have understanding of before they die. All of these things define a hypocrite. So we are taught in the Quran what a hypocrite is. It is more than just not doing what you say. We are given examples so we don't lie to ourselves, to say, hey man, I go pray. You know, I'm not perfect, but I go pray. Yeah, sure, you're making progress, but why are you praying? Are you praying to be accepted into your society, into your social circles, into your community? Or do you pray out of firm conviction because you need help? A lot of people just pray because that is something that everybody does in their village, in their society. They do because it's the thing to do, that all people do it. That's why they do it. That is not why you should pray. You know, are you trying to avoid ignorance? Are you trying to, are you saying what is not in your heart? All of these things are important. And all of us have a certain degree of hypocrisy in our hearts. All of us. That's why you have to think about this thing, and you have to try really, really, really hard, because this is like the worst thing you can be. This is the worst thing you can be. On the day when the hypocritical men and the hypocritical women, they will say to those who believe, when the day comes, the judgment day, they will say to those who believe, wait for us, so that we may have light from your light. And it will be said to them, go back and seek light. Then a separation will be brought between them, with a wall having a door in it. The inside of the wall, there will be mercy in it. And the outside of it, there will be punishment. And the hypocrites, they will yell out, they will cry out to the people of heaven, were we not with you? They will say, yeah, but you caused yourselves to fall into temptation, and you waited and you doubted, and vain desires deceived you till the threatened punishment of God came, and the arch deceiver deceived you about God. This is in chapter 57, verses 13 and 14. So when the day comes, we're all dead, and we're all resurrected, and now we're all heading toward God. Those who believe will have a clear light. They will know exactly where they're going. And the hypocrites, they won't. They will like, well, wait for us. What's going on? You know? And then all of a sudden, they will find themselves unable to follow the believers any further. There will be a wall between them. They will say, what's going on? We were with you. We were Muslims too. What's happening? And they won't understand. And the people of faith are going to tell them exactly what I'm saying now. They will say, yeah, but you caused yourselves to fall into temptation. You went to the bad places. You made excuses for yourselves to indulge in your temptation. You made the wrong choices. You waited. You doubted. You weren't sure. This doubt you have about God, that you have, this is from the society you live in. They want you to live a certain way. They want you to be like them. So they put all these ideas of what is right and what is wrong in your head. They use professors and teachers and experts. Experts are the new priests. And there are sciences in which you have expert chemists and expert physicists. You can have experts in sciences, but these matters are matters of social opinion. So these social experts, they may have some knowledge, but generally they tend to steer away from commandments of God because these are not popular with people. So they look for different solutions, except they will never find them. So social experts are just as well pressured to be a part of this sick society, to somehow excuse it, and sometimes they say this isn't perfect, but it's the best we got, and it isn't the best we got. You are being told through entertainment. You are being told through, when you choose to listen to a song. I'm not saying music is haram. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying music is forbidden. I don't think music is forbidden. It doesn't say that in the Quran. And in the Surah Luqman, I think it's the 31st Surah, verse 6. That is the Surah that the chapter that they use, and the verse that they use to say that music is forbidden. Instruments are forbidden. Where the word that is in that verse is hadith. People take senseless hadith, which is like exactly what they're doing now. Hadith just means stories or narrations. And people have whole collections of this crap to, and they prefer it over the verses of God. They actually follow stuff that is contradictory to God. So it's not music. And that's a whole other topic of it in of itself. That's a very important topic, actually. But I won't talk about it now. But music does change your mood. It does change your opinion. It does change your behavior. Music can make you in a good mood. Music can make you in a bad mood. Music can make you aggressive. It just depends what kind of music it is. It is the words that are important. If you have a music with a good message, it's going to influence you in a good way. It is not forbidden. But if you have music with a bad message, that music is forbidden. But if you choose to listen to a music that is going to turn you away from the path of God, you cause yourself to fall into temptation. And whatever you have is a consequence of that. Same thing with movies, same thing with popular culture, and same thing with your teachers and experts. All of this is used to skew your opinion into what's normal and what isn't. And if you allow yourself to fall into temptation, to doubt the verses of God, and not follow them because you doubt them, you are going to be with the hypocrites. When this happens, you're going to be like, wait for us, I was a Muslim too. No, you weren't. I mean, you saw yourself as one, but you did not stay away from this pitfall. And what else does it say? Vain desires deceived you. Selfish desires deceived you. I'm trying to get paid. I'm trying to, be a Mac. I'm trying to do all of these things. Whatever's forbidden is forbidden because it's bad for you. But these selfish desires that you have, and we all have them, trust me, they deceived you. And the arch deceiver deceived you about God. He said, don't worry about God. He can say God is not real, or God will forgive you, or God, it's not that important. You allowed the devil to tell you that it's not important, that God will understand, that God will not judge you for this. You can break these laws, and you want to break these laws because of the immediate desire, vain desire, these low desires, these animalistic desires. You want to break the laws of God. That is literally why God made these laws, because God knows who you are and what you are made as. God knows you are going to want to break these laws. But God explains to you in the Quran why you shouldn't. Why this is bad. Because it hurts people. It hurts you. All of our social ills are because we disobey God. Whatever social ill you want to consider, it is because we disobey God. Racism is rooted in arrogance, thinking that we are better just by the nature of birth. So is kings and stuff. They think that they deserve to rule just by nature of birth. And they can be terrible people. And we follow this and we allow these bad people to rule us because we were told that that's normal. Poverty. Root cause is greed. People allow themselves to become greedy. They don't give charity. They just accumulate and hoard for themselves. Sexually transmitted diseases. Single-parent households. All as a direct result of sexual immorality. And I can go on. When you give yourself an option, when you allow the devil to tell you that any of those things are okay, you have allowed yourself to be deceived. You have allowed your vain desires to overtake you, to confuse you. And if you stay like that till the promise of God comes, you're done. For you, it is the lower place in hell, the lowest place in hell, for the hypocrites. And you can allow people, every religion has this crazy myth about intercession of prophets, that Prophet Muhammad is going to stand there and ask God for you. Tell God, oh, he's one of my people, you should let him into heaven. That is delusion. If you think that Prophet Muhammad is going to stand there and excuse liars, and excuse thieves, and excuse immoral people who continue to live in a pattern of behavior that God hates. If you think, I know it's in some sort of hadith, and people have accepted this as some sort of an official religious doctrine, but it's not. It's not. It is in all over the Quran that the Prophet Muhammad is going to say, my Lord, my people have abandoned this Quran. He's going to be a witness against you, not for you. Same thing in the Bible. Christians, they believe that if you believe in Jesus, you will be forgiven. In the Bible, I think it's Matthew 23, I'm not 100% sure. Or Matthew 21, I don't know. But Jesus says, the prophet Jesus says the following: not everyone who comes to me and says, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven, who obeys God, which is what the word Muslim means. Only the one who obeys the will of my Father who is in heaven. And many will come to me that day and say, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name and drive out many demons in your name? And I will tell them plainly, get away from me, evildoers. I never knew you. People will come and they will expect the prophets to stand up for them. After living their whole life doing what they were forbidden, they will come to Jesus and say, we were your followers. We were Christians. Just as the same as the Muslims are going to say, we were Muslims. What's going on? And the prophets are going to say, get away from us. We never knew you. We told you what to do and you did exactly the opposite. And yet you claim to belong to us. You are worse than those people who said that they disbelieved. You were the poison from within. You shut the door of faith to others because of your own hypocrisy. You convinced others that this is okay. You destroyed others. That is why hypocrisy is so vile. That is why it is the most condemned trait in all Scripture. All of it. Whether you read the Bible or the Quran, hypocrisy is the most condemned value in all Scripture. Understand the traits. Understand what makes a person a hypocrite. And work really, 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 really hard not to be one. And you're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to realize your own hypocrisy. But as you continue to try, as you use the tools that God gave you with the prayer and the fasting and the charity and reflection, you can improve. We can all improve. And it's a long process, but you don't have an unlimited amount of time. And it starts with knowledge. It starts with sincerity. You cannot use your lack of knowledge as an excuse, because God clearly says what happened, that the desert Arabs are the worst in unbelief and hypocrisy, and they are the least to know what God actually revealed and what the messenger told them. They refuse to know. And then those who do know, who refuse to follow, same thing. So please understand this. And your very soul depends on it. You are dying. As the days progress, you are one day closer to death every single day. The death is coming to you. You will die. You will die. And this existence is not for nothing. You're not just here because earth decided to grow you, because you grow out of the earth. That's not why you're here. Heaven, God, hell are all real places, as real as the air that you breathe. You may not see it, but you feel it. Every so often, all of us will get that empty feeling or panic feeling when the idea of death comes to you. Before I see people with this all the time, and very few people admit it. But it does at one point in life, for everybody who is deluded, it comes to them. Even the atheists, they're not gonna admit it. And the emptiness we feel once you achieve high statuses in life. For example, entertainers. They literally have everything that we are told is of value. They have fame, that everybody likes them, they have fortune, they can do whatever they want. And yet, some of these people are the most depressed people in the world. They are just knee-deep in drug abuse, and everybody around them is using them. And they're just unhappy people. And yet you have some of the poorest people who have God in their hearts and they're happy. God is real. Without God, we are not complete. You can't find happiness without God. This is all by design. This is all by design. God is real. Heaven and hell are real. And these punishments, these traits, all of this is real. All of it is real. You can do whatever you want. That's the beauty about it all. Prophets, all prophets, were just preachers. Some of them could do miracles, But nobody ever forced anybody to do anything. They were just preachers. They were literally telling people what I am telling you now. I'm a nobody. But I've learned some of these things from the books. And I struggle with them every day. So I know they're hard. And I know they're even hard to see. But I know how important they are. And that is what I'm trying to do with this. To explain how important they are. Sincerity is everything. We're not perfect, but we should not use that as an excuse to be hypocrites. I hope all of us are successful. I don't want anybody to go to hell. It sounds like a terrible place. And I would love to see my friends in heaven. I'm not saying this because I think I'm somebody. I am saying this because I actually care about people, especially my family, especially my friends, and then people in general. And nothing is asked from you, and just accept to be a good person. You don't have to change your culture. You don't have to change your name. You don't have to speak a foreign language. You don't have to do any of this. Just do what God commanded. Use the tools, prayer, fasting, etc. And then master the behavior, truth, humility, respect for parents, honesty in commerce, avoidance of sexual immorality, taking care of the orphans, giving sincere charity, taking care of your communities. That is literally it. Being humble and being merciful. Being just. All of these things that you love to receive yourself. So you know they're good. So that's all that's asked from you. Hey man, be good. How can you object to that? How can you not do that when you value it? How can you venerate a prophet and all the stuff that they did and then refuse to do the same thing? They were just men. They were just people like us. Prophet Muhammad said, I am nothing but a man like you, and I don't know what is going to happen to me or to you. I only follow what has been revealed to me. He literally told you that. He literally told you that. And then you somehow made him special so you can excuse yourself for not doing what he did. He only literally followed these simple commands with sincerity. And that is exactly what is commanded to for you. But because you somehow see him as special, you consider these simple gestures to be special and worthy of a saint. I mean, they call them saints in Christianity. They're not. They are the basics. That is what that's what's expected from you. If you don't do that and you are not trying with sincerity, then you are a hypocrite and you are going to be in the lowest place in hell. So please don't do that. That's all. I wish really everybody good luck because this requires some degree of God's mercy as well as some degree of effort and perseverance. So good luck.